I'm standing on the junction of West Hill and Millfield Lane. I'm just going to give you a panoramic view of where I am, and this is going to be my Keats walk, John Keats walk. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to be turning into Millfield Lane here and heading up past Hampstead. And it's on this lane that John Keats met Samuel Taylor Coleridge and his friend Joseph Green. John Keats was born the 31st of October 1795. He was born at the Swan and Hoop, Public House, 199 Moorgate, London, and was baptised at St Botolph Road, Bishopsgate, Fern Lodge. In 1803, John and his brother George were sent to the John Clark Academy in Enfield, a boarding school. John Keats' form teacher was Cowden Clark. It was he who would introduce Keats to poetry and later to Leigh Hunt. Over there is the men's bathing pond. In front is the old Bolton Pond, and we just continue straight along Millfield Lane. This is the John Keats walk. Right to my right is Merchant Lane, which takes you back onto West Hill. In front it's Fitzroy Park, the middle lane, and to the left Millfield Lane continues on towards Kenwood. So we'll be continuing along Millfield Lane. On the 15th of April 1804, John's father Thomas fell off his horse and died. He was buried at Hill Cemetery near Moorgate. 2 months after John's father Thomas died, his mother, Frances Jennings, remarried William Rawlinson at St George's Church, Hanover Square, on the 27th of June 1804. Frances had abandoned her children, and now she was destitute. That's where I've just come from. Just give you a little panoramic view. Okay, and as I said, we just continue along Millfield Lane there. That path there on my left. The path in front is Fitzroy Park, which takes you all the way up to the Grove in Highgate. It's on this lane that Joseph Green, surgeon at Guy's Hospital, who knew Keats, introduced Coleridge to Keats. And after they spoke for a while and shook hands, Coleridge turned to Green and said, "There is death in that hand." In front is the entrance to the ladies' pond. Unfortunately, due to the lockdown, everything is closed. Okay, once we pass the gate, we'll be bearing to our left. A panoramic view of where I am at the moment. Now, if you continue straight along Millfield Lane, you come out by Kenwood. But as I said, we're going to be bearing to our left. We just continue straight ahead. As you can see, the gates leading into Kenwood are closed and have been closed for nearly 2 months now. And as I said, we just continue straight on in front.
In 1809, Frances, sick with TB, had reconciled her differences with her mother Alice and returned home to her family. John nursed his mother, but sadly she died in March 1810.
And when you get to the top, all you do is just continue straight in front. Okay, now that's where I've just come from. And as I said, all we do now is just continue in front. We'll be crossing over Bird Bridge. I'm standing on Bird Bridge now. Just continue in front, stay in front. Then on Viaduct Bridge, looking down at Viaduct Pond. The bridge was built in 1845. Right, that's where I've just come from, Viaduct Bridge. As I said, we're going to be turning right here by the avenue of trees, heading towards the Vale of Health.
By the summer of 1810, John had left school and started an apprenticeship as an apothecarist with Mr. Hammond at number 7 Church Street, Edmonton.
Okay, when you get to this point, you turn to your right along the dirt path in front, which will take you out by Viaduct Pond, and we'll be leading or heading towards the Vale of Health. And we just crossed that bridge, Viaduct Bridge, a few minutes ago, and as I said, we're heading towards the Vale of Health, where Leigh Hunt resided, where John Keats became good friends, well, friends of John. So we bear to our left and continue.
In October 1815, Keats registered at Guy's Hospital to continue his studies as an apothecarist. Leigh Hunt gained notoriety through an article he wrote in the Examiner on the 22nd of March 1812, entitled "The Prince on St. Patrick's Day," which lambasted the future King of England George IV, calling him a cheat, liar and womanizer. Leigh Hunt was charged for libel and sentenced to 2 years at Horseway Lane Prison. He was given special privileges and received many celebrity visitors, Lord Byron, Shelley, and even Cowden Clarke, who would convey his meetings to John. Leigh Hunt was released from prison in February 1815, and he and his family settled at the Vale of Health.
Okay, that's where I've just come from, by Viaduct Pond. Now I'm just going to give you a panoramic view because it's getting a bit tricky here. Now when you come to the bench in front, go straight for it and carry on straight. Do not continue up the hill, okay? So you go towards the bench and carry on straight. Now, I've come about 20 yards. And when you get to this point where you see a bench there, take the path, or go walk on the grass, should I say. Okay, once you pass the bench, you've got this little hill here going down, so be very careful. Just continue straight in front. Cross over this little wooden bridge and continue straight. Okay, that's where I just come from. I'm here now at Vale of Health Pond. Now this was made famous by Shelley and Leigh Hunt's children. Said he would come up here and play games with his eldest son and curl his hair up like a horn. Now if you continue on the path in front, you come up by Well Walk. Okay, from here we just go ahead in front, crossing over the bridge. That's where I've just come from. Okay, we just continue on a bit. We burn to our left and heading into the Vale of Hilll itself. It's like a little hamlet. As I said, we turn left here and we're coming into the Vale of Hilll and to the place where Leigh Hunt lived between 1816 and 1817. Now this used to be known as the Lower Fairground. In fact, I remember amusements, arcades and everything here. That's gone back a few years now. But anyway, as I said, we just continue straight in front. Okay, in front is the house where T.H. Lawrence lived, David Herbert Lawrence. Okay, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to bear to my right. Now the problem is, there's so many different locations where Leigh Hunt stayed, and no one really knows which house it is. So I'll show you them all. Okay, just give you a view where I've come from, that's right. Okay, now we're going to try and locate Leigh Hunt's house. So when we get to the top, we just bear to our right. Okay, we'll be turning to our left in a second. Now it is said that he stayed here, Vale Lodge. Anyway, we're going to continue round and we're going to go to the second location where it is said he stayed. That's Leigh Hunt.
It's here in the autumn of 1816 that Cowden Clark introduced John Keats to Leigh Hunt.
Okay, so we turn left down this little alleyway to the second location. Now the second location is here, South Villa. Okay, all we do now is just continue straight in front. We're heading towards Squires Mount. Okay, at the top of Vale of Hilll, all we do is cross over East Heath Road and continue in front along Squires Mount. We're heading towards Royal Walk now.
In June 1816, John had qualified as an apothecary. By October 1816, John Keats had made his mind up. He no longer wanted a career in medicine, instead he wanted to be a poet. His guardian, Richard Abbey, was not happy.
In front on my right is Cannon's Hall, famous or made famous by the de Maurier family. Gerald de Maurier lived there, and his daughter Daphne de Maurier lived and was brought up there. And we just continue straight down, we're heading towards Royal Walk. And so we just continue straight down. This is the old lockup where if you misbehaved, we're talking about 18th century, you put in the cell for the night to cool down. Right, that's where I've just come down from. So we just continue down till we get to Well Walk. Okay, well, I'm on Well Walk now, famous for the Canobit waters, and this place turned into some sort of spa town in the early 18th century. But as this is the Keats Walk, we're going to head towards the Well Tavern.
In the autumn of 1817, John and his brothers, George and Tom, moved in with Mr. Bentley, the postmaster, and his family at number 1 Well Walk. It was from here, in December 1816, that Keats met Percy Shelley at Leigh Hunt's home. Percy Shelley advised Keats to revise some of his poems, which were to be published in March 1817. Sadly, Keats ignored Shelley's advice, and the book was a failure. The next book of poems by Keats was Endymion, which he finished in November 1817 and had published in March 1818. In May 1818, John Keats and his friend Charles Brown, who had let his half of Wentworth Place to the Bourne family, accompanied John's brother George and his new wife to Liverpool, where they were to sail to America. Tom stayed in Hampstead, being looked after by the Bentley family. In the August issue of Blackwood's Edinburgh Review, its critic Lockhart commented on Keats' poem Endymion. He wrote, "It is better and wiser thing to be a starved apothecarist than a starved poet. So back to the shop, Mr. John, back to the plasters, pills, and ointment boxes."
Okay, that's where I just come from, along Well Walk, and here I'm beside the Wells Tavern. Now, back in Keats' time, this pub wasn't here. It was number 1 Well Walk, the postman, where Mr. Bentley the postman lived. And it's here that John and his 2 brothers moved into in the spring of 1817. Now, beside the house was the Green Man pub. Now, by the 1st of December 1818, John's brother Tom succumbed to TB and unfortunately died. Now, on that night, John, with shock and despair, ran all the way down the hill to be with his friend at Wentworth Place. So that's where we're heading now, Keats House. That's where I've just come from. It's quite a walk, but anyway, we're nearly there. Just continue straight in front. Okay, you'd be passing Goldfinger's house, made famous by Ian Fleming film, Gold. Okay, that's where I've just come from, along Willow Road, and when you get to this point, all you do is bear to your right, along Devonshire Hill. Okay, you'll be passing the Freemasons. We'll just continue on a bit and then we bear to our left along Keats Grove.
Mrs. Braun, a widow with 3 children, Fanny, Margaret, and Samuel, had rented Charles Brown half of Wentworth Place in the summer of 1818. And when he came back from Scotland, she moved up here at Devonshire Hill and rented Elm Cottage.
After John's brother died, 1818, 1st of December, Keats spent Christmas with the Braun family. And it was the first time he met Fanny Braun properly. And they had their Christmas in Elm Cottage, along here in Devonshire Hill. Okay, when you get to the St. John's Preparatory Church, we bear to our left into Keats Grove. Right, that's where I've just come from. As I said, we're going to bear left here along Keats Grove. Now here we are beside Keats Museum and House, over there on my left.
In the spring of 1819, Charles Stilk let his half of Wentworth Place to Mrs. Braun and her family. John Keats was in love with Fanny Brawne. My heart aches and a drowsy numbness pains my senses, as though of hemlock I had drunk, or emptied some dull opiate to the drains. 1 minute passed, and leftward had sunk. 'Tis not to envy of thy happy lot, but being too happy in thine happiness, that thy light wing dried off the trees, in some melodious plot of bracken green, and shadows numberless, singers of summer in full-throated ease. By the end of May 1819, Charles Brown had relet his home for the summer. John Keats had to leave. What can I do to drive away remembrance from my eyes, for they have seen, aye, an hour ago my brilliant queen. Touch has a memory, oh say, love, say, what can I do to kill it, to be free in my old liberty? John had failed to break his love for Fanny Brawne. After 6 months apart, he returned and proposed to Fanny in October 1819. John was working on a new book of poems which was to be published in June 1820. On the 3rd of February 1820, John coughed up blood, and he turned to Charles Brown and said, "That drop of blood is my death warrant." On the 13th of September 1820, Fanny Brawne wrote in her diary, "Mr. Keats left Hampstead."